And welcome back to another episode of the Member Spotlight. If you don't know what this is, then you've been missing out. This is a new tag series where we chat to different members within the tag community to talk about all things digital advertising and a little extra. You can head over to tagtoday.net/member spotlight after this episode, of course, and catch up on the rest of the episodes. We have had some really interesting chats with some pretty fabulous people in the industry. So if you don't already know me, my name is Jules Kendrick and I am your host for this episode. And today I am really pleased to get the opportunity to have a chat to the wonderful Sara Vincent, who is the UK MD for Index Exchange. Hello and welcome back to another Tags Member Spotlight. So today I'm very pleased to be able to welcome Sara Vincent, who is the UK MD of Index Exchange and also long-standing member of the tag community. So welcome, Sara, great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to see you.
Great, and you too. So Index Exchange, as we both know, has been in the ad tech space for almost 20 years. And Sara, you've been in the industry for about the same length of time. I think I beat you by about 5 years. But I think it's probably fair to say that Index Exchange are probably one of a handful of companies, and you, Sara, one of a handful of people in the ad tech space that have seen and experienced sort of the speed of growth of our industry and all the sort of growing pains, also lots of the positives that have come with that. So can you sort of talk a little bit about how Index Exchange has really sort of navigated this sort of huge growth over that kind of time period?
Of course, amazing. The first thing I'll just say is that I started in the industry really young.
Hey, my friends, yeah.
I was really a baby when I started. So yeah, I've as you said, Index is a company that's been around for nearly 20 years, which is quite a long time. And over that time, obviously, we've seen lots and lots of changes across the industry, weathered storms, and pivoted. So I think our role has been the same for 20 years, which is really supporting our publisher clients and driving maximum yields and outcome for our buyers. And over that time, obviously, as I said, there have been changes. So we've also pivoted our business to adapt to the changing industry. And most recently, we have rewritten our entire exchange. So that was about 2 years ago now. So every single line of the code was in our exchange was rewritten. And what that has done is actually given us a really good foundation, which is future-proofed and will bring and grow with quite quick scale to onboard and adapt to new emerging channels. And as we see the industry grow, such as the like of more online video and streaming TV. Our mission as a company is to accelerate the ad tech evolution. And I think this is like multifaceted, but it's a great word to use when describing the ad tech industry as a whole, which I think is one that is constantly evolving, iterating and improving. It doesn't stand still, and probably that's the reason why I've been in this business for 20 years. It doesn't feel that long, and it always felt like there's something new and something exciting on the horizon. I think over the past decades, we've seen a growth in programmatic advertising. We've seen the year of the mobile. We've seen the emergence and very fast growth of streaming TV. And we will continue to see future evolution in new formats and new inventory and, of course, new channels. Oh, sorry, go.
No, you guys, I just think it's great, like the way you talk about the way that Index Exchange has pivoted, and the fact that it's been able to do that is why it's sort of been around for 20 years. I think we've seen a lot with the industry. We've seen a lot of companies come and go, and a lot of that is because, you know, M&A is so big in the industry. But I think it is that being able to see and address new challenges and pivoting the business. I also love the point that you made about, you might have to remind me of the actual words, but the kind of enabling like the ad tech evolution is the fact that we iterate so quickly and there are so many, you know, new tech coming in, and the way that it seems like the success of businesses like Index Exchange is that ability to future-proof their business and to pivot where kind of required. So it's really interesting to see how it's been able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's like you make a really good point about the consolidation piece. Now, I think in any industry, when new opportunities present themselves, there will be a number of companies that will launch to address that new opportunity, and then over time consolidation will happen, and that's just a natural course of business. I think from our point of view, we always think very much about the long term, and so we plan for that long term, and to your point, really, that's how we've, I believe, managed to sustain our growth within the industry, remain a very key player and partner for many of our clients, and continue, as we talk about, the weathering storms, but just going through those peaks and troughs as the industry changes, but being in a really solid, stable position to navigate those.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, being able to weather the storm. That's the thing. I think it's been really important for anyone in the kind of growth of this industry, and also I think whenever I am out in market, I sort of think Index Exchange has a very strong reputation, so I think that's always that's great, and that enables you to kind of have that kind of sustainability and enable you to kind of keep to keep going and working with the industry. So I wanted to kind of like look a bit more specifically around we've looked at it sort of from a sort of a larger ecosystem, but if we look sort of more specifically around kind of brand safety, ad fraud, and kind of threat intelligence perspective, what would you say are kind of some of the key milestones that digital advertising has kind of achieved to really keep sort of threats that we see to the success of the industry, how we kind of keep those threats at bay?
Yeah, I think the programmatic advertising ecosystem as a whole is like a very complicated supply chain of interconnected companies, and historically has really struggled to transparently detail the supply path of each ad that's been sold. So publishers and developers each have unique sets of SSPs, exchanges, ad networks, and ad tech vendors that they work with to sell ads based on their own needs. And with this really broad and diverse set of partners, selling channels and monetizing ad space, the industry has faced fraudulent and malicious actors taking advantage of those access points within the sell side part of the industry, often at the expense of advertisers' wallets. So the need has arisen over time, really, to bring transparency to the programmatic supply chain. So buyers can confidently identify the supply that they're buying and then limit malicious actors from taking advantage of the supply chain. And so if you take nothing else from this, the one word that I would say to leave with is thinking about transparency, and how shining a spotlight on what we're doing is only going to help eradicate, reduce these threats that we all, unfortunately seem to be part of the industry.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point that you make around transparency. I think it's a word that that we use a lot, but the fact when you kind of layer in, exactly as you say, the complexity of our supply chain, and the fact that there are so many sort of touch points across the supply chain, it does leave us open to criminal actors. It gives them so many opportunities. But when we build in transparency, when we know what's happening at each jump of the supply chain, then we massively kind of reduce that threat. So I think, yeah, it's a key word, transparency. But I think it feels like recently it's become even more, so more people are talking about it. We have advertisers kind of asking for transparency, wanting to know. We've seen studies obviously in the UK and the US around this. So yeah, it's really important, and I know that's very important to Index Exchange, that they ensure that their clients can see that kind of level of transparency.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good that it is becoming much more of the narrative, and there is many more actions against it, but it really should have been table stakes a long time ago. And I mean, talking about over years, so IAB has also been incredibly instrumental, obviously, in launching initiatives that help address these issues and challenges we're talking about. So I'm referring to, but like back in 2017, I think it was, the introduction of ads.txt, sellers.json, and like S-chain object, which has allowed DSPs really to use these specifications, and then they can confidently buy supply, knowing the full supply chain in each request is what they expected, and then independent validated as well. So it just it brings more confidence, obviously, into the space, more trust, and of course it will by highlighting well, I guess the absence of these objects will just mean that the buying decisions are moved away from this sort of inventory. So things like this are really key. And at the time they're launched, you know, it's obviously really important to get behind those initiatives. And these things only really work if the whole industry adopts them. And I think we've seen and learned in the past of it's good to have standards, and you know each one of these initiatives as they're released will only seek to enhance that, bring more standardization, bring parity, and as we talk about, obviously seek to eradicate some of the challenges that we see around ad fraud. One of the things, perhaps more recent, bringing this more recent example to where Index is focusing today, which is around, we will be a video first exchange by the end of the year. So our pivot there is quite an interesting one. But one thing we're seeing in streaming TV is that there is a lack of content signal transparency, which is it's a big concern for media buyers who just do not have visibility into the context that they're buying in, the environment, the channel, the genre, which means they're not necessarily making the right bids for that inventory. So that's something that, you know, transparency will help eradicate within, you know, the fraudulent, potentially the fraudulent space, but also will help increase revenue and optimization and just bring a better industry together. So it'll take some time to get that full transparency across the board. When we first launched OpenRTB for web, which I don't know if I do remember, I'll say that I was a bit too young to remember that, but it did take a good couple of years to actually have the industry adopt the standards like the OpenRTB protocol, which obviously now is everything. And so if we can take those lessons and realize that that's the greater good, and for not just for eradicating bad actors, but also for increased monetization and better user experience, then, you know, we could be in a really good place to actually propel and, you know, evolve the industry forward at a quicker rate, which is much more secure and a trusted environment.
Yeah, I think that's, you make such a good point about adoption and how key it is, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while to get the industry moving as one. But I think, you know, the work that IB Tech Lab has done around the kind of technical standards, and then those being implemented into tag standards and ensuring that, you know, ensuring compliance and the industry is compliant to those standards, it really starts, as you say, starts to raise the bar and prevent, as we say, the kind of the attacks on the supply chain. Interesting as well to hear that Index Exchange is going to be video first by the end of this year. You know, we're seeing such a huge growth in that area. And again, it's very important to make sure that while tag standards, for example, are sort of channel agnostic, that we continually look at how channels are iterating and whether actually CTV versus audio versus gaming, whether they need to be addressed in different ways. So again, it's, you know, working with the industry and ensuring that we're constantly addressing those challenges as we see them arise. So that's great to hear. So I just wanted to ask you, you know, Index Exchange obviously are part of TAG's Leadership Council, and just as a reminder to those watching, that TAG's Leadership Council is the strategic governing body for TAG, and kind of the role really is kind of to keep TAG laser focused on our mission and to advise TAG on the kind of strategic direction for both TAG as an organization, but also for the industry at large. So Sarah, why is Index Exchange part of TAG's Leadership Council?
I think we can say this in, like, the short answer is that quality is so important for us. And we feel that by partnering with TAG, we're able to help deliver this. We, you know, working with an independent body to certify and verify us in this way is really important to us, but it's also really important to our clients, and it's important to the industry. So being fully TAG certified, it enables us to continue our mission as leading, you know, the advertising space by continuously looking in how we can eliminate fraud, as we've discussed, and piracy and malware on the exchange. We as a company, the longer version now, we as a company are really focused on quality and security and fraud prevention, so that any partner that we're working with will have full trust in, you know, our marketplace, and that we're delivering to the highest quality ads and inventory. We have teams across the business that are, you know, just solely focused on this. So we have an inventory quality team to really make sure that we can reassure all of our partners that campaigns are running in brand suitable environments. And through our supply quality team and anti-fraud partnerships, we screen every app and site on the exchange to check that all the inventory is brand safe, all traffic is human and valid, and every transaction meets our quality standards. And that is also, you know, to the detriment of revenue as well for us, because we believe we have actually quite strict guidelines and criteria, and so we will sacrifice revenue if, you know, to not work with certain partners that don't meet that criteria, and, you know, ultimately do not help us and help the industry in the direction we're trying to go.
That's great. That's great to hear. And I think sort of picking up on your word around trust, I think, you know, it is so important, you know, trust and transparency, those kind of two key words, that we really need to continue to build trust. Not just, you know, public trust in our industry, but also trust from, you know, sort of advertisers and brands that, you know, their budget is safe when they're buying digital inventory. So that's great to hear. And you kind of sort of reference this a bit just now, but Index Exchange also has tag platinum status. So, you know, meaning you obviously achieved all of the tag seals. And I think one of the things that's really worth noting there is it's not just that you have platinum status, but that all of your seals are actually applied to your global operations, which is fabulous to hear. So the question, I guess, around that is, you know, was achieving platinum status an actual priority for Index Exchange? And in addition to that, kind of why did you choose to apply the seals to your global operations, you know, rather than just regionally?
Yeah, as you say, like we have the platinum membership, which means that we have received all of the tag seals. And for anyone who's listening who's not familiar with those, there is you know, a long list of criteria to be able to meet those standards. And so, you know, we're very proud that we have achieved that. I'm really honoured, I guess, to be part of this. I think it's a handful of companies globally that have this status, which it says so much, I think, about the way that we view our business and the way that we view the industry, and that it's, you know, our actions are reflecting our the words, you know, that we're speaking. And so it's incredibly important to have all the seals, and it's also important for it to be global, because there was, you know, we are a global marketplace. We have global clients, we face, you know, we have partners that face global challenges, and we don't view, we don't see that there's merit in having a disparity between the standards that we're holding ourselves accountable for across regions. And so globally was like always going to be the goal, and then to be platinum as well. Obviously, it doesn't get better than that, which is great, and it's obviously good that you know, we're very pleased to be working very closely with you guys now.
Yeah, it's great to hear that, like you're saying, that it just because you're working in different markets doesn't mean that different standards should apply. It's that it's basically, this is the industry, the global industry standard, so it should apply to every market and for every advertiser that you're working with. So that's great to hear. And it's been great to hear all about kind of Index Exchange and how you've been sort of working over the last, you know, 20 years to work, you know, and with the industry to help them kind of address a whole variety of challenges that are kind of some that stay the same and some that you know, come and go. But I guess probably my last question to you would be kind of what advice would you give to either current tag members or those that are kind of thinking about coming on board and adhering to the industry standards, you know, how they could leverage tag as much as possible, or as much as Index Exchange has?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who's currently part of TAG, I would say, you know, good work on joining, you know, a very reputable organisation that is actually going to be driving our industry forward. For those considering, I think it's, you know, familiarise yourselves with what the TAG seals are, and where you think that you can make steps towards actually obtaining those. And then when you do, make sure that those are part of your conversations that you have in market, to not only drive awareness of you know, tag seal adoption, but also in terms of, so partners are aware of like what actually is entailed to obtain these seals. We also engage in the working groups, so we have regular meetings with tag and tag members. That's really invaluable. You know, you hear so much that you wouldn't be hearing in sort of everyday conversations with your direct clients or within the business. And so that gives a very, and mostly the meetings that I'm on it's a global call, so you get a unique perspective. And I've always found that those meetings have been so engaging, and it's all very action driven as well. So this is working with you is we see as a partner that will actually, as I say, drive the change, and we do see action on the back of that. So I would say to anybody considering it, like looking to it further, see which seals you are going to be most relevant for your business. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about how we work with TAG. But either way, it's all about encouraging more companies to adopt certification, working with a partner that independently is evaluating your business, just goes so far in terms of driving that trust to, which should be, your own customers, and then the wider industry as well. So it's all a step in the right direction of driving the industry and the integrity across that industry.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think I agree. I think the TAG working groups are so great to participate in that kind of hive mind of, addressing, talking about challenges. That it's great to be able to come in and you hear people come in and sort of say, I'm seeing this, is anyone else? And then you kind of having those discussions, and actually, sometimes it's not anything that's going to affect the standard. It's just going to be, it's something that just helps out to have a discussion. But often it's something like, actually, maybe this is something that the standard could address, and how do we implement something into it? So it really is around the industry kind of driving the standards forward. So that's great to hear that's useful. So that brings me to the sort of conclusion of all the kind of business related questions. But it means the next bit, which is my favorite bit of the member spotlight, which is TAG's 10 questions. So are you ready for it?
Let's go.
Okay. So I think I'm right in thinking that originally you're from Norfolk, which is actually one of my favorite places. I love the beaches there. So what would you say is the best thing about Norfolk?
Oh, have I told you? Did I have that conversation with you one evening and bored you with that? So the best thing about Norfolk is that it is a beautiful part of the world. The North Norfolk coast is a little bit of a hidden gem. I think the further east you go, the more kind of commercial you get, but seasides like Brancaster and Blakeney are just incredible. So that would be, absolutely visit there if you haven't already.
I think Blakeney is one of my favorite. I think that's where when my kids were little, I think I took them to see the seals of Blakeney. So yeah, that was amazing. So that's great to hear. So another thing, so for those in the who aren't in the UK, they're kind of, that's the sort of East Anglia. But I think I'm right thinking that you actually studied. You went to university in Bradford. For those watching not based in the UK, that's in Yorkshire, which is in the north of England. So. And I don't know if you're a tea drinker or not, but I'm hoping you are. Are you Twinings, PG Tips, or Yorkshire tea?
Oh, PG Tips.
PG Tips, interesting. If you're not in the UK, you'll have to go and Google those. Lots of people who are from Yorkshire will say that the only thing in their drink is Yorkshire tea. So my third question, to
be fair, as a student, I could not afford any of those brands. So I was probably drinking like Netto's Basics or whatever that is.
Supermarket owned. So yeah, third question. What album or musician are you listening to at the moment?
Taylor Swift.
Who isn't listening to Taylor Swift at the moment?
I was going to say with the rest of the world.
So as we are recording today, which is, we are in, what are we in the sort of middle of July, Europe is actually experiencing a heat wave, although temperatures in the UK have been a bit variable. It's sort of relatively nice today. So would you say you like the heat, or are you more of a cold weather person?
100% the heat.
Yeah. So,
I would be very happy if it was just hot every single day of the year.
Same. I would be exactly like that. My kids only like the cold though. So yeah. So that kind of leading on from that question then. So where would you say is your favorite place to go on holiday, or to have like a weekend break?
The favorite place to go on holiday is a place that we've actually been going now for the last 4 years with the kids. We drive over to the French Alps. So we drive over to the French Alps in February to take them skiing. And then if we're lucky enough, we will drive again over in the summer to take them on all the activities that you can do in the Alps in the summer, which is just awesome. So it's not a restful holiday by any stretch. It's very active, lots of wakeboarding and mountain biking and just really, really good fun, but it's absolutely stunning. And that's absolutely my favorite place.
That sounds amazing. That I've heard a few people say that before. So that's on, I'll put that on my sort of to-do list because it sounds amazing. Yeah. Right. It's moving up the priority list. So I don't know how, like we're saying, you don't go on relaxing holidays, it sounds like, but what's the last book you read? If indeed you have had a chance to read a book.
Yeah, the last book I read was Shoe Dog, which is the story of Nike. Or Nike, I'm not sure how you want to pronounce it. It's actually really interesting. It's kind of like there's lessons in business there's lessons in psychology and human interaction, and just actually it's a phenomenal story. And then of course the Nike movie has been released, which is great. It focuses on one part of it, but it's yeah, I would recommend that to anybody. That's a great book.
Adding that to the list now. So what would be your cocktail of choice? And if it's not a cocktail, what would be your drink of choice?
Cocktail would be something that didn't taste massively alcoholic. So I'm like not a real drinker, but something which has got a bit of fizz in it maybe, and a bit of fruitiness.
Okay, yeah. Not most people say Aperol Spritz because that's normally what I would.
No, I was just thinking Aperol Spritz. In fact, the last cocktail I did drink was oh my goodness, what's it called? Campari Spritz.
Oh, yes.
Because in Cannes, the Aperol Spritz just gets a little bit too much and it's a little bit too sweet. And then, someone put me on Campari Spritz and it's like, I haven't looked back.
I like elderflower spritz. I'm very into elderflower at the moment. So next question, what is your favorite TV series of all time? That's a tricky one.
Oh my gosh. Of all time. Friends is good. It's a bit of a banker. It's just so easy, always on there. And what is amazing about that is that I see my kids now watching that. And you're like, I used to watch this when I was at university, and here they are like 15, 16 now watching it. So, I mean, that's kind of like very easy watching. My favorite series at the moment is Breakpoint, which is the sort of reality behind the scenes story of tennis and tennis championships globally. It's just brilliant.
Oh, sure. This is great for me. I'm getting loads of sort of things. I have much. So again, I'm going to come in with a difficult one. What is not your most annoying habit, but the most annoying habit, something that winds you up that other people have, an annoying habit?
Speaking over me.
Make sure.
And as I say that, I know my husband's going to go, that is your habit. That is what you do all the time. So I know it's annoying when people do it to me. So I'm sorry about that.
It was one of those difficult things though, because we now do so much on Zoom. I think we all spend so much time talking over each other because it's so hard not to on a Zoom call, and constantly going, oh, sorry, did I just speak over you? I didn't mean to. Yeah. So we've all had to get used to that. Okay. Final question. What is a must-have item in your handbag?
Oh, lip balm.
Yeah, same. Similar. I think I've said same to quite a few. But yes, I have literally got lip balms in every handbag, every coat pocket. I cannot live without it. It's a nightmare. And once you start, you can't stop. That's it. I'm not sure it actually does anything for us, but anyway, it's probably my annoying habit as well, the fact I'm always putting it on. Brilliant. So those are the 10 questions. Thank you so much for today. It's been lovely to have you on. Great to have you as a continuing member of the tag community, and for all the work that Index Exchange does in the industry as well. So Sara Vincent, thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It's been very fun.